Tom Walker was walking home from work on a sunny Tuesday afternoon. He worked at a small grocery store in town and was tired after a long day of stacking shelves. The warm sun felt good on his face as he took his usual shortcut through Green Park. The park was quiet at this time of day. A few old people sat on benches, and some kids played by the small pond. Tom was thinking about what he would eat for dinner when he heard a strange noise. It was a dog crying. Tom stopped walking and looked around. The sound came from behind some bushes near the edge of the park. Tom was curious, so he walked toward the bushes to see what was happening. As he got closer, Tom saw a big man with a red cap and dirty jeans. The man was standing over a small brown dog. The dog was tied to a tree with a rope. It looked scared and was trying to move away from the man. Tom watched in shock as the man kicked the dog hard in its side. The dog yelped in pain and tried to run, but the rope held it back. "Hey, stop that!" Tom shouted without thinking. His heart was beating fast. He never liked to get into trouble, but he couldn't just watch someone hurt a dog. The man turned around quickly. He had an angry face with a scruffy beard. "Mind your own business, kid," he growled. He was much bigger than Tom, with big arms and hands like shuttles. Tom felt scared, but he also felt angry. The small dog looked at him with sad eyes that seemed to beg for help. "Leave that dog alone," Tom said, trying to sound brave. His voice shook a little. "What did it ever do to you?" The man laughed. It was not a nice laugh. "This mutt bit my hand when I tried to pet it," he said. "I'm teaching it a lesson." He kicked the dog again, harder this time. Tom pulled out his phone from his pocket. "I'm calling the police," he said. "Animal abuse is against the law." The man's face turned red with anger. He stepped toward Tom with his fists tight. "Give me that phone," he demanded. He reached out to grab Tom's phone. Tom stepped back quickly. He was not a fighter. He was just a normal 23-year-old guy who worked at a grocery store. But something inside him wouldn't let him walk away. The dog needed help, and no one else was around. "I said give me that phone," the man shouted. He lunged at Tom and pushed him hard. Tom fell back onto the grass, dropping his phone. The man picked up the phone and threw it into the nearby pond with a splash. "Now what are you going to do?" the man asked with an ugly smile. He stood over Tom, looking down at him. Tom's heart was racing. He didn't know what to do. He was not strong enough to fight this man, but he couldn't leave the poor dog with him either. Tom slowly got back to his feet, his legs shaking a little. Just then, a black car pulled up on the road next to the park. The car was shiny and expensive looking. The door opened and a man stepped out. He was not very tall, but he looked strong. He had no hair on his head and wore a tight black t-shirt that showed his muscles. He wore sunglasses even though the sun was starting to go down. The man walked toward Tom and the dog abuser. He moved in a confident way, like someone who was not afraid of anything. As he got closer, Tom's eyes grew wide. He recognized the man from movies. It was Jason Statham, the famous action movie star. The dog abuser didn't notice the new arrival at first. He was too busy threatening Tom. "You should have just kept walking," he said to Tom. "Now I'll have to teach you a lesson too." "I don't think that's a good idea," said a deep voice with a British accent. The dog abuser turned around, surprised by the new voice. Jason Statham stood there, taking off his sunglasses slowly. His eyes were cold and serious as he looked at the man, and then at the scared dog tied to the tree. The dog abuser looked at Jason Statham with surprise in his eyes. At first, he didn't know who was standing in front of him. Then his face changed as he recognized the famous actor. "This isn't your business," the man said, but his voice was not as strong as before. He took a small step back. "When I see someone hurting a dog and pushing around a good person, it becomes my business," Statham said. His voice was calm but firm. He looked at the small dog tied to the tree, then at Tom, who was still on the ground. "Are you okay?" he asked Tom. Tom nodded, and slowly stood up. He couldn't believe Jason Statham was really here in the park. It felt like a dream. I was driving by when I saw what was happening. Statham explained. I don't like bullies, and I really don't like people who hurt animals. The dog abuser looked around nervously. He seemed to be thinking about running away. The dog bit me first, he said, showing a small red mark on his hand. I was just teaching it a lesson. Statham's face grew harder. That's not how you teach any living thing, he said. He moved closer to the man. Untie the dog. Now. The abuser didn't move. He looked at Statham, then at Tom, then back at Statham again. Suddenly, he made a bad choice. He threw a punch at Statham's face. Statham moved like lightning. He stepped to the side, and the punch missed him completely. In one smooth move, Statham grabbed the man's arm and twisted it behind his back. The man cried out in pain as Statham pushed him down to his knees. That was a mistake, Statham said, still holding the man's arm tight. Tom, can you check on the dog? Tom was amazed at how fast Statham had moved. He had only seen such things in movies before. He went to the dog and bent down slowly. The small brown dog was shaking with fear. It had some dirt on its fur and looked very scared. But Tom didn't see any blood or broken bones. I think it's okay, Tom told Statham. Just very scared. He gently untied the rope from the tree. The dog stayed where it was, too afraid to move. Statham pulled out his phone with his free hand. I'm calling the police, he said to the abuser. Animal cruelty is a serious crime. Please don't, the man begged, his tough act completely gone now. I just lost my job yesterday. I was angry. I wasn't thinking straight. Being angry is no excuse for hurting those weaker than you, Statham said as he dialed. You need to learn that actions have consequences. While they waited for the police, Tom sat on the grass next to the dog. He talked to it softly and slowly reached out his hand. After a few minutes, the dog sniffed his fingers and moved a little closer. Tom smiled as he gently petted the dog's head. He's starting to trust me, Tom told Statham. Statham nodded. Dogs are good judges of character, he said. They know who the good people are. The police arrived in 10 minutes. 2 officers stepped out of their car and walked toward them. They looked surprised when they saw Jason Statham holding down a man in the park. Mr. Statham, one officer said, clearly recognizing him. What's happening here? Statham explained everything he had seen. Tom also told the police what had happened before Statham arrived. The officers took notes and then put handcuffs on the dog abuser. Thank you for your help, Mr. Statham, the older officer said. We'll take him to the station and charge him with animal cruelty and assault. As the police put the man in their car, Statham turned to Tom. What's your name? He asked. Tom Walker, Tom answered, still petting the dog who was now sitting close to him. Well, Tom Walker, Statham said with a small smile, you showed real courage today. Not many people would stand up to someone like that. After the police left with the dog abuser, Tom and Jason Statham stood in the park with the small brown dog. The sun was starting to set, and the park was getting darker. The dog stayed close to Tom's legs, still nervous but no longer shaking with fear. What happens to the dog now? Tom asked, looking down at the small animal. He didn't want to leave it alone in the park, but he wasn't sure what to do. Statham bent down and gently held out his hand to the dog. After a moment, the dog sniffed his fingers. Does it have a collar or any tags? He asked. Tom carefully checked around the dog's neck. No collar, he said. I don't think it has an owner, or maybe it ran away or got lost. Statham nodded. It needs to see a vet, he said. That man could have hurt it worse than we can see. He stood up and looked at Tom. Do you know any animal doctors nearby? Tom thought for a moment. There's a vet clinic about 10 minutes from here by car, he said. My friend's cat goes there, but I don't have a car, and they might be closed now. Statham pointed to his black car parked on the road. I have a car, he said simply. And if they're closed, I can make a call. Some doors open more easily when you're in movies." He smiled a little. Tom couldn't believe this was happening. First, he had stood up to a dog abuser. Then Jason Statham had appeared like a hero from a movie. Now he was going to ride in Statham's car to take a stray dog to the vet. This was the most exciting day of his life. "Can you carry the dog?" Statham asked. "It seems to trust you more than me." Tom nodded and carefully picked up the small dog. It was lighter than he expected. The dog didn't fight or try to bite him. Instead, it settled into his arms like it knew it was finally safe. They walked to Statham's car. It was a fancy black car that looked very expensive. Statham opened the back door for Tom and the dog, then got into the driver's seat. The inside of the car smelled like new leather and was very clean. "What's your name?" Statham asked as he started the car. "Tom Walker," Tom answered. "I work at Green's Grocery on Main Street." Statham nodded as he drove. "And what made you step in when you saw that man hurting the dog?" Most people would have just walked by and pretended not to see. Tom thought about the question. "I don't know," he said honestly. "I just couldn't walk away. It wasn't right. The dog couldn't defend itself." He looked down at the small animal now resting in his lap. "I was scared, though." "Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared," Statham said. "It means you do the right thing even when you are scared." He turned the car onto a bigger road. "I respect that. Many people talk about doing the right thing, but few actually do it when it's hard or dangerous." Tom felt proud hearing these words from someone famous like Jason Statham. In the movies, Statham always played tough guys who fought bad people. In real life, it seemed he was not so different. They arrived at the vet clinic. A sign on the door said "closed," but Statham parked anyway. "Wait here," he told Tom. Statham got out of the car and walked to the clinic door. He knocked hard. After a minute, a woman in a white coat opened the door. They talked for a few moments. Statham pointed back to the car where Tom waited with the dog. The woman nodded and opened the door wider. Statham came back to the car. "Dr. Garcia will see the dog," he said. She was about to leave, but she agreed to stay when I told her what happened. Tom carefully got out of the car with the dog in his arms. The small animal seemed calmer now, looking around with interest instead of fear. "Is the doctor a fan of your movies?" Tom asked as they walked to the clinic door. Statham smiled. "No," he said. "She's a fan of people who help animals in need." Inside the vet clinic, bright lights shone on clean white floors. The place smelled like soap and medicine. Dr. Garcia led them to a small room with a metal table in the middle. "Put the dog here," she said, patting the table. Tom carefully placed the small brown dog on the cold metal. The dog looked around nervously but stayed still. Dr. Garcia was a short woman with kind eyes and gray hair tied back in a tight bun. She moved gently as she checked the dog. "It's a girl," Dr. Garcia said after looking at the dog closely. "About 2 years old. Some kind of terrier mix." She ran her hands over the dog's body, checking for injuries. The dog whined a little when the doctor touched her side. "That man kicked her there," Tom said, pointing to where the dog seemed hurt. Dr. Garcia nodded and kept checking. "I'll need to take some x-rays to see if anything is broken," she said. "She's also very thin. Probably hasn't eaten well for days." "Is she going to be okay?" Tom asked. He felt worried about the small dog. In just a short time, he had started to care about her. "I think so," Dr. Garcia said. "But she'll need care and good food." She looked at Tom and then at Statham. "Do either of you want to keep her?" Tom's heart jumped at the question. He had always wanted a dog, but his small apartment didn't allow pets. "I can't," he said sadly. "My building doesn't let people have dogs." Statham was looking at his phone. He looked up when Tom spoke. "I'm in town filming a movie," he said. "I'll be here for 3 more months. Then I go back to Los Angeles. I already have 2 dogs at home." Dr. Garcia sighed. "Then she'll have to go to the animal shelter," she said. They're good people there, but they have many dogs already. Tom felt sad thinking about the small dog in a cage at a shelter. After all she had been through, she deserved a loving home. "Can I visit her at the shelter?" Tom asked. "Maybe take her for walks sometimes." Dr. Garcia smiled. "Of course," she said. "That would be very nice. First, let's make sure she's healthy," Statham said. He turned to Dr. Garcia. "Please do whatever she needs. X-rays, medicine, food. I'll pay for everything." Dr. Garcia nodded and picked up the dog to take her for X-rays. "This will take about 30 minutes, she told them. "You can wait in the front room if you want." Tom and Statham went to the waiting room. There were no other people there. They sat in plastic chairs side by side. Tom felt strange sitting next to a famous movie star, but Statham acted like a normal person. "That was very nice of you," Tom said, "paying for the dog's care." Statham shrugged. "I have money," he said simply. "Might as well use it for something good." He looked at Tom. "What do you do? You said you work at a grocery store." "Yes," Tom said. "Green's Grocery. I stack shelves and help customers. Nothing exciting." "And you live in an apartment that doesn't allow dogs?" Tom nodded. "It's all I can afford right now," he said. "I'm saving money to go back to school. I want to study to be a veterinary assistant." Statham looked surprised. "Really? You want to work with animals?" "Yes," Tom said. "I've always loved animals, but school is expensive, so I need to save more money first." Statham was quiet for a moment, thinking. "I know some people," he said finally. "The movie I'm filming now has animal trainers working with us. They use dogs, cats, even birds in some scenes." He looked at Tom. "They might need help. It doesn't pay a lot, but it's more than stacking shelves, and you'd be working with animals." Tom's eyes grew wide. "Are you serious?" he asked. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. "I don't joke about jobs," Statham said. "I can make a call tomorrow if you're interested." Before Tom could answer, Dr. Garcia came back with the dog in her arms. The small brown dog looked more relaxed now. "Good news," Dr. Garcia said with a smile. "No broken bones, just some bruises that will heal. And she's hungry, but not starving." Tom smiled with relief when he heard the good news about the dog. Dr. Garcia placed the small brown dog back on the examination table. The dog looked better already. Her eyes were brighter, and her tail moved a little when she saw Tom. "She needs a name," Dr. Garcia said as she wrote some notes on a paper. "We can't just call her the dog forever." Tom looked at the small brown dog. She had been so brave today. "How about Lucky?" he suggested. "Because she was lucky we found her." Statham nodded. "Lucky is a good name," he agreed. "It fits her." Dr. Garcia wrote Lucky on her paper. "Lucky it is," she said with a smile. "Now, I've given her some medicine for pain, and she's had a little food and water. But she needs a place to stay tonight before we can take her to the shelter tomorrow." Tom looked at Lucky. The thought of her going to the shelter still made him sad. He wished he could take her home. "I'm staying at the Grand Hotel while we film," Statham said. "They don't usually allow dogs, but—" he smiled a little. "They make exceptions for me." Dr. Garcia looked relieved. "That would be very helpful, Mr. Statham," she said. "Just for tonight. Then the shelter can take her tomorrow." Statham nodded and turned to Tom. "Would you like to come along? We could get some dinner and talk more about that job with the animal trainers." Tom couldn't believe what was happening. First, he met Jason Statham. Then Statham offered to help him get a job. Now he was being invited to have dinner with a famous movie star. This day kept getting more strange and exciting. "Yes, thank you," Tom said. "That would be great." Dr. Garcia gave them some medicine for Lucky, a small bag of dog food, and a leash she found in a drawer. "Call me tomorrow about bringing her to the shelter," she said as they left. Outside, the sky was dark now. Stars shone above them as they walked to Statham's car. Tom carried Lucky, who seemed much more relaxed now. When they got to the car, Statham opened the door for them. "There's a good restaurant near my hotel," Statham said as he drove. "They have private rooms where we can talk without people coming up for pictures and autographs." Tom nodded. He hadn't thought about that part of being famous. It must be hard to go places without people bothering you. They arrived at a fancy restaurant with big glass windows and a red carpet at the door. A man in a black suit stood outside. When he saw Statham's car, he quickly came over. "Mr. Statham, welcome back," the man said. Then he noticed Lucky in Tom's arms. "I'm sorry, sir, but we don't allow." "She's a special guest," Statham said firmly. "We need a private room, please." The man looked unsure for a moment, then nodded. "Of course, Mr. Statham. Please follow me." They were led through the restaurant to a small room with just one table. The walls were dark red and soft music played. Tom felt out of place in his work clothes, but no one seemed to care. Once they were seated, Statham ordered food for all of them, including some plain chicken for Lucky. When the waiter left, Statham pulled out his phone. "Let me make that call now," he said, dialing a number. "Frank, it's Jason." "Yes, good to talk to you too. Listen, I met someone today who might be perfect for your team. Yes, he wants to work with animals. His name is Tom Walker." Tom sat there amazed as Statham talked about him on the phone. Lucky curled up at his feet under the table, sleeping peacefully. Just this morning, Tom had been a normal person with a normal life. Now he was sitting in a fancy restaurant with Jason Statham, who was trying to get him a job working with animals. "Yes, he can come by tomorrow," Statham said into the phone. 10 o'clock. "Perfect. We'll be there. Thank you, Frank." He ended the call and looked at Tom with a smile. "You have an interview tomorrow at 10. Frank is excited to meet you." Tom couldn't find words. "I thank you," he finally managed to say. "Why are you doing all this for me?" Statham put his phone down on the table and looked at Tom. The famous actor's face became serious. "You want to know why I'm helping you?" Statham asked. He took a sip of water before continuing. "When I was younger, before I became an actor, I saw something similar happen. A man was hurting a small dog in a park in London. But I walked away. I was late for work, and I told myself someone else would help." He shook his head at the memory. "I still think about that dog sometimes. I wonder what happened to it." Tom listened carefully. He hadn't expected such a personal story from the movie star. "Today, when I drove past the park and saw you standing up to that man, I saw someone being braver than I was back then," Statham continued. "You didn't walk away even though you were scared. That matters." The waiter came in with their food, placing steaming plates in front of them. He put a small dish of plain chicken on the floor for Lucky. The dog woke up and sniffed the food but didn't eat right away. "It's safe, Lucky," Tom said softly. "It's for you." After a moment, the dog began to eat slowly. Tom looked back at Statham. "I never thought I'd have dinner with Jason Statham because I tried to help the dog," he said with a small laugh. Statham smiled. "Life is strange that way," he said. "Sometimes the smallest decisions change everything." He started eating his food. "Tell me more about yourself, Tom. Why do you want to work with animals?" As they ate, Tom told Statham about his life. He had grown up in a small house with his mother. They never had much money, but they were happy. Tom had always loved animals. When he was little, he would bring home hurt birds and bugs to try to help them. His mother would help him make little beds for them in shoeboxes. "I wanted to be a vet," Tom explained. "But college is expensive. My mom got sick when I was in high school, so I started working to help with bills." He looked down at Lucky, who had finished her chicken and was now sleeping again under the table. "I still want to work with animals somehow. That's why I've been saving money." Statham listened without interrupting. When Tom finished speaking, Statham said, "Frank, the man I called, is a good person. He trains animals for movies. If you work hard, he can teach you a lot." "Do you really think he'll hire me?" Tom asked. I don't have any experience with professional animal training. You have something more important, Statham said. You have heart. Frank can teach you the skills, but he can't teach someone to care about animals the way you do. After they finished eating, they went to Statham's hotel. It was the fanciest building Tom had ever been in. The floors were shiny marble, and everything looked expensive. People at the front desk smiled and nodded at Statham, but looked surprised when they saw Lucky. No one said anything about the dog not being allowed, though. Statham's room was huge, more like a house than a hotel room. It had a big living room with soft couches and a large TV. There were 2 bedrooms and even a kitchen. You can stay in the guest room. The next morning, Tom woke up in the soft hotel bed. For a moment, he didn't remember where he was. Then he saw Lucky sleeping on a cushion near his bed, and everything came back to him. Meeting Jason Statham, saving the dog, and now staying in a fancy hotel room. Tom got out of bed and Lucky opened her eyes. Her tail wagged when she saw him. She looked much better today. She stood up and stretched, then walked to Tom and licked his hand. Good morning to you too, Tom said with a smile. He found his clothes neatly folded on a chair. Someone had washed them during the night. They smelled clean and fresh. After getting dressed, Tom walked into the main room of the hotel suite. Statham was already up, wearing a black t-shirt and drinking coffee at a small table. A large breakfast was laid out with eggs, toast, fruit, and juice. Sleep well? Statham asked, looking up from his phone. Yes, thank you, Tom said. He still felt strange talking to a famous movie star as if they were friends. The bed was very comfortable. Eat something, Statham said, pointing to the food. Your interview is in 2 hours. Tom sat down and put some eggs and toast on a plate. He also found a small plate and put some plain eggs on it for Lucky. The dog ate happily beside him. I called Dr. Garcia this morning, Statham said. I told her Lucky is doing well. She said the shelter can take her tomorrow. Tom looked at Lucky. The thought of her going to the shelter still bothered him. But what else could they do? He couldn't keep her, and Statham would leave town in a few months. What if nobody adopts her? Tom asked, worry in his voice. I thought about that too, Statham said. He put down his coffee cup. I have an idea, but let's talk about it after your interview. Speaking of which, we should leave in. Tom followed Frank through the busy animal training area. There were people everywhere, walking quickly and giving instructions. Dogs barked, birds chirped, and trainers moved from one cage to another. Tom felt nervous, but he also felt curious and excited. They stopped near a small fenced area. Inside was a brown and white dog, shaking and hiding in the corner. This is Bella, Frank said. She's supposed to be in a scene later today, but she's too scared. We need someone to help her feel safe. Can you try? Tom nodded. He slowly walked to the fence and knelt down. He didn't want to scare Bella. He spoke in a soft voice. Hi, Bella. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. Bella looked at him but didn't move. Her ears were flat, and her tail was still between her legs. Put out your hand and let her come to you, Frank said. Tom held out his hand, keeping it low and still. He didn't say anything more. After a long minute, Bella sniffed the air. Then she slowly came forward, step by step. She sniffed his hand, then stepped back. A few seconds later, she came back and licked his fingers. Good girl, Tom said quietly. Bella wagged her tail a little. Tom smiled. Try walking with her now, Frank said. See if she'll follow you. Tom opened the small gate and stepped outside. He patted his leg and spoke gently. Come on, Bella. Let's go. Bella looked at him, then walked forward, one paw at a time. Soon she was walking beside him, tail wagging faster. The other trainers stopped and stared. Some even clapped quietly. Frank was impressed. Nice job. You made her feel safe. That's what this work is all about. Tom felt proud. He looked down at Bella and gave her a gentle pat on the head. "You're a good girl," he said. "Thanks for trusting me." For the next 2 hours, Tom helped with different animals. He helped feed the cats, cleaned a bird cage, and even carried a sleepy raccoon to its trailer. Every animal had a different personality. Some were playful, some were shy. Tom stayed calm and patient with each one. Frank watched everything closely. "You have a natural talent," he told Tom. "Most people don't connect with animals this fast." Tom blushed. "Thank you. I really enjoy it." Later, Jason Statham came back from filming a scene. He looked tired but happy. "How's it going?" he asked. Tom did amazing, Frank said. "He helped calm Bella and worked with all kinds of animals today." "That's great to hear," Statham said. He turned to Tom. "I knew you could do it." Tom smiled. "I didn't know I would like it this much." Frank stepped forward. "Tom, I want to offer you something. I think you'd be a great part of our animal team. I'll train you, and maybe one day you can lead scenes on your own." Tom's eyes widened. "Are you serious?" "Yes," Frank said. "Think about it. We travel to film sets. You'd be working with animals every day. We'll teach you everything." Tom looked at Statham, who gave him a nod. Then he looked down at Lucky, who was waiting nearby, tail wagging. "I have one question," Tom said. "What happens to Lucky?" Statham smiled. "That's the best part. If you join the team, Lucky can come with you. She can be your assistant." Tom laughed. "Really?" "Really," Frank said. "She's already a star here." Tom looked around. The animals, the people, the bright lights, and the open space. He took a deep breath and nodded. "Then I'm in," he said. Frank shook his hand. "Welcome to the team, Tom." Tom looked at Lucky and smiled. Everything was changing, but it finally felt right. The next morning, Tom woke up feeling excited. He was no longer just a helper. He was now part of the animal team. Lucky jumped on the bed and licked his face, her tail wagging fast. She seemed to know something had changed. Okay, Tom laughed. "I'm up." After breakfast, Tom and Lucky went to the movie set early. Frank was already there, talking to some trainers. He waved when he saw Tom. "Good to see you," Frank said. "Today, we're working on a real scene with animals. You'll help behind the camera." Tom followed Frank to a part of the set that looked like a forest. Trees, rocks, and fake grass made it look real. Cameras were set up, and people were getting ready. A scene today involved 2 dogs running through the fake forest and jumping over a log. It looked simple, but animals needed lots of training to do it right. "These dogs have done this before," Frank explained. "But one of them, Ruby, is a little nervous today. You'll help keep her calm." Tom nodded. Ruby was a small black dog with shiny eyes. She sat near the log, looking unsure. Tom sat beside her and gently petted her back. "You're okay, Ruby, just like practice," he said in a soft voice. Ruby leaned against him and slowly relaxed. The director shouted, "Quiet on set." Everyone got ready. The other dog, a big golden one, stood beside Ruby. Both dogs had to run when the trainer gave the signal. "Ready, action." The trainer whistled. The golden dog took off right away, but Ruby froze. She looked at the camera, the lights, and then at Tom. Tom smiled and gave a quiet whisper. "You can do it, Ruby. Go." Ruby looked at him, then suddenly ran. She followed the golden dog and jumped over the log perfectly. "Cut," the director shouted. That was great. Everyone clapped. Tom felt a rush of happiness. He looked at Ruby, who barked and wagged her tail. "You did it," he said proudly. Frank came over, smiling. "Nice work. You helped her believe in herself." The rest of the day was full of more learning. Tom helped move animals, gave out food, and even cleaned up after a horse. It wasn't always fun, but he didn't mind. He felt useful. During lunch, Tom sat with Lucky under a big tree. She rested her head on his leg. I think this is the best job in the world, Tom said out loud. Jason Statham walked over with a sandwich in his hand. Still glad you said yes? Definitely, Tom said. Jason nodded. We're flying to the next filming location in 2 weeks. It's a bigger movie. Lots of animals. Are you ready for more adventure? Tom thought for a moment. A few weeks ago, he was cleaning cages at a shelter. Now he was part of a movie team. He looked at Lucky, who looked back with happy eyes. I'm ready, Tom said. And Lucky is too. Jason smiled. Good. You'll both do great. Later that afternoon, Tom was given his own ID badge. It had his name, and the words *animal assistant*. He held it in his hands and stared at it for a long time. It wasn't just a badge, it was proof. Proof that his life had changed. That evening, Tom and Lucky walked back to the hotel. The sky was orange, and the streets were quiet. Tom looked up at the stars starting to appear. Thank you, he whispered to no one in particular. Maybe to the stars, maybe to life. Lucky barked softly beside him. And together, they walked forward into a new chapter, full of new chances and maybe even more surprises.